Hello everyone, my name is Gus.
Hi, I'm Woody.
Today we have a video that was recommended by one of our viewers, and this is apparently 5 diving related deaths. I haven't seen it.
It's
You
a
haven't
fiver?
seen it.
I'm just saying that.
It's not a moment to high five.
No. Well, views.
Okay.
You know what happens with them.
So I don't know. Let's see what it is about and give our thoughts. By the way, you're not gonna believe this, but we will pause and talk on Dive Talk. It's weird.
That's terrible.
All right.
Imagine you and your friends diving to see a sunken ocean liner. This is Andrea Doria, and for divers, it's like what Mount Everest is for mountaineers.
Well,
The most challenging spot to set diving records. On the inside,
Is
the
it
ship
deep?
is a bit
I don't
reminiscent
really
of the
know.
Titanic, since time seems to have stopped here.
okay.
Is it deep? Do you know about
Andrea
this?
Doria is pretty deep.
Where
Yeah.
is it? Help! I'm not kidding. I don't even know.
This is the problem with not researching. People are like,
Yeah, I know. I
how
don't
can
know."
you guys do a reaction if you don't research first?
And we should know.
Then how would it be a reaction if I know what's coming? That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I think Andrea Doria is on the northeast of the United States, like
Freezing.
Boston, like that. Yeah, like up there. If I'm wrong, put it in the comments. I don't know. This is just by memory. All right, but it's a pretty deep wreck, and I think what makes it challenging. I was talking to someone about this. What makes it challenging is just the sea conditions. Like it typically is just terrible. It's cold. The waves are out of control. It's just really, really rough to get to it, and then getting to the wreck is rough as well. So I think that's
So
why.
when do you want to go?
Okay. Yes, I do want to do it. But this is why I think this guy is saying that this is like the Mount Everest of, wreck diving, and this is where you set records, and this is the closest to the Titanic, which is totally false because the closest to the Titanic is the Britannic. The Britannic, which is in Greece, is actually 330 feet deep, so like 100 meters deep, and is the sister ship to the Titanic. It's an exact replica of the Titanic. So if you want to get to the closest to the Titanic, you can do that by diving the Britannic. That's actually a dive that you can do. It's actually on my bucket list of dives. I would love to do the Britannic. Jacques Cousteau found it, by the way.
Nice.
And they were diving like open circuit at 100
Right.
meters. Like
No problem.
nuts.
You pick up a trophy, a china dish from the cupboard,
Wow, look
and
at
go
that
back to
dry
the
suit.
surface with your friends.
Beauty.
Suddenly, you notice that one of them has surfaced with his face down.
Ooh.
You turn him over and see a blue face covered with bruises and bloodshot eyes.
Bruises.
But everything was fine just
Yeah.
a minute ago.
Bear trauma?
Apart from diving already being a highly dangerous sport, there are endless cases of people dying in the depths due to the strangest reasons. For
Okay.
example, you may end up in a giant whale's mouth.
Okay.
Or your closest person may intentionally cut off your oxygen. These
dumb.
are far from being the most unexpected causes of
It's
death
already-
during diving.
I don't even understand.
As
What?
always, viewer discretion is
Wait.
advised.
Did I? The closest person may. This happens often. People swim up and cut off your oxygen. First of all, I doubt they're diving oxygen, but
Obviously.
who's swimming around murdering people by cutting off their air? Look out for the murdering divers. That part is just one of the craziest comments I've heard yet.
Yeah, and for
You have to
those of you who are new to the channel, we're laughing about oxygens because divers dive with air. They don't dive with oxygen, right?
Or they do die.
Yeah, pure oxygen is toxic past 20 feet or 6 meters. So that's why when you hear somebody say, it's like, how much oxygen do you, or whatever, they don't know about diving. We use air or nitrox or some other gas, but not pure oxygen.
Speaking of dying, I don't know if you wanted to say anything to me.
What do you mean? I don't-
Well, I'm here and feeling good, and just saying, top of my head was drilled open.
That's okay.
Wait, what? I'm just making an announcement. The top of my head was drilled up, literally, like a and we're not allowed to put because I photographed it for Dive Talk.
Yeah, I know. You
The
sent it
hole.
to me out of the blue. Thank you for that, by the
You
way.
saw the hole, right?
I was eating when you sent that.
You saw how deep that hole was. It looked like it went into a cave zone in my brain.
Had
And
it been a different person, you could have seen brain. That's how bad. That's how bad it was.
By the way, whatever part of that
Yeah.
whatever part of my brain that was,
Mm.
I wonder what I don't have anymore. Do you think that
I-
do you think some of the PhD with my microbiology or my rope, you know what it could be? My knot skills have probably gotten worse.
Your knot skills, yeah.
'Cause you know.
Well, for those of you who don't know, let's just mention what it was. So they found something in your head.
Look, what I had it is years and years of abuse with my skin in South Florida growing up. Friggin' 50 years ago, we weren't wearing sunscreen.
Yeah.
We weren't. We were just frying. I mean, we would literally fry. Okay, I knew, because about a few years ago, I had a basal cell. Very much that's like could become cancer. But then on the top of my head, it was a while ago. I found this it almost looks like a mole, brown spot or whatever.
Yeah.
And I finally went to the dermatologist, and I know, got it. You should have gone right away. But finally, when the guy's like,
Yeah.
"That's melanoma.
We got to cut your head off.
We're cutting your head off quickly." And they did. This was I wish I could show everybody the picture for those that would want to see it.
Yeah.
I sent it to Gus, right at dinner time. And that was a pretty serious, you have to admit, when you looked at it, I think you text me back like, dang.
Especially because
you
I
didn't
was
say,
eating.
"Are you
That was
okay?"
terrible.
You didn't say, "Man, are you all right?" You just were like,
Damn.
"Damn."
Yeah.
And I'm here. Because what happens is when they remove it, they have to send it that day to pathology so they don't restitch you. So you go home
With a hole.
with a hole in your head, but up
Right.
they put a Band-Aid on it, and you're waiting and waiting. I mean, that's not a very comfortable night. Like,
Right.
am I going to die? Is it all through my body?
Yeah.
The next day, mine came back. We got it all, and you're clean.
Yep.
And then I text Gus saying, many more years of annoying you will be getting from me.
Celebration.
So,
All
all right, that's it. That's
You know
our
what would have been
announcement.
funnier though?
What an interruption to a death
if
video.
if you're a doctor, surgeon, whatever,
Dermatologist.
had like a super deep redneck accent, that would have been hilarious. What we're
No,
gonna
no.
do? Saw your head off.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
That would have been awesome. I wish that was the case because it would have been great.
It's called
Entertainment.
It's called Mohs surgery for those of you that want to know. And this doctor that I had trained at the at the university where Dr. Mohs invented the procedure of Mohs skin cancer removal.
Wow.
So that you probably knew
And
what
then
he
he
was doing.
started that chain of burritos, Moe's. It's really good. All right.
I
On
remember
June
asking him
11th,
the whole time. By the way,
2021.
you do know what you're doing, right? Because I feel like you're going really, really deep, and there are knots now that I'm forgetting where I knew
All
them
right,
yesterday.
that's-
Okay, go. Let's go
Michael
ahead.
Packard and Josiah Mayo were in the Atlantic Ocean near the coast of the Cape Cod Peninsula,
Yeah.
Massachusetts. Michael was scuba diving for lobster and had already caught approximately 45 kilograms. Meanwhile,
100
Mayo was watching
pound
them from
lobster?
the fishing
That was a
boat.
Florida
The
lobster.
two friends
they
had been
showed,
working
not a
together
Maine
for about
lobster.
15 years.
How
The fact
do
that
you
Michael
know?
stayed
I
in
know
the
that's
business for
shocking.
so
That,
long.
yeah, I know you're blown away by just that right there. By
Because
the way,
you
the
say it like you
the
know what you're
pausing
talking
today,
about.
I know is big. I'm from Florida. And
Yes.
Florida lobster don't have the claws. Maine lobster have the claws. Guarantee. See the squinting?
That
Please chime in on the
dude,
comments and
there's
tell them how.
no way this is true.
Okay. Can you, everybody, please tell Gus or
There's
Google
just
it
no
right
way.
now? Florida lobster don't have claws. They only have those antennas, no claws.
That's
Maine
racist.
lobster.
Listen, there's no way
Okay.
that this is true.
How definite are you? Because I want the more definite you are on this one, I can't wait for you to get blasted.
I
Are you
am
like?
not-
Do you feel like you're 100% right on this?
No, I don't feel
How
100%.
much,
It just
99?
it just seems outrageous.
Are
Your
you
claim
90
is outrageous.
Are you 99% right?
No way.
Give me a percent that you
All right,
think.
let's just
just
keep
for
watching
the comments
because-
because I'm going to enjoy them. 90% you feel like you're right.
I feel like
That Maine lobster have a claw, but Florida lobsters don't. How right do you think you are?
I'm gonna
that I'm wrong.
I'm gonna say like I'm gonna be conservative.
Okay.
97%.
This is gonna be
All right.
awesome. I
Almost
can't wait.
surprising, since the man had been in a lot of trouble while diving. Before taking up lobster diving, he spent years diving for sea ears, sustained a concussion and multiple arm injuries,
What?
and even had a few close encounters with great white sharks. Nevertheless, Michael kept getting out unscathed. In 2021, he almost died in a plane crash. Then, he spent 3 days in the
crazy.
jungle after the airplane fell, suffering a lung puncture, 4 broken ribs, a ruptured Achilles tendon, and had a total of 180 stitches on his head.
That's what I had.
Because of this, Michael thought himself to be lucky and never shied away from risks.
Pretty.
Yet the sea was calm and clear that day, so no thought of new life challenges even crossed his mind. Michael submerged to a depth of around 14 meters and almost reached the ocean floor when he felt a sharp push, which was like being hit by a truck or even a cargo train. And then everything around him went dark.
Which is like getting hit by a
He
plane.
felt a fast water current taking him somewhere. Michael started touching the surface around him,
You're
and
kidding.
it turned out to be hard.
He got
Panicked,
eaten by a
the
whale?
man didn't understand
This is so
anything,
dumb.
and
This
for a
is
second,
true.
he thought he was inside a shark. But
What?
why hadn't he felt its sharp teeth? Suddenly, the diver realized he was trapped inside a whale's closed mouth.
Unbelievable.
The man was wriggling, writhing, and trying to get rid of the painful pressure being exerted on his legs.
Oh,
His
come on.
regulator, a breathing device for diving, fell out of his mouth, but Michael put it back immediately. Although he didn't quite believe it would be of much help, Michael had already accepted the fact that his usual luck had exhausted itself.
He's
and he would
scuba
surely
diving
die.
inside the whale's mouth.
Suddenly,
That's
the animal
ridiculous.
surfaced and started shaking its head. That was when Michael saw the light. The whale opened up its mouth and spat the man out. All dirty, he lay and looked at the sky, his body all blue with bruises, his knee immobilized due to an injury, but he was alive.
Unbelievable.
As it turns out, when a humpback whale opens its mouth to eat,
Yeah.
it sees practically nothing in front of it, which
No.
is why anyone can accidentally end up in its mouth. Luckily, baleen whales' esophaguses is too narrow to swallow a human. Nevertheless, it's possible to receive countless injuries even in a whale's mouth,
Yeah,
just like what
I would
happened to
think so.
Michael. So, do you think he quit diving after this? No. Mike didn't abandon his beloved work and kept relying on his good fortune. Yet, not everyone is as lucky.
Would you
Meet Brett Gilliam.
believe me? If I went on a dive trip and I said, no, Gus, I definitely got swallowed by a whale and spit back out, what would it take for you to believe me? And I don't have video of it.
There is nothing
Would
you can say.
I would, no matter what I said, would you not believe me?
No.
That's how unbelievable this is. He literally had his regulator spit out inside the whale's mouth. Then he put it back in. Was he scuba? Is there water? Yeah, there's water in the whale's mouth. You're scuba diving around in the whale's mouth.
I was inside the mouth.
It's just
so I
pitch
had to
dark.
lay line
It's
to
dark.
navigate into.
Yeah, it's
Bro,
like a
come
kid.
on.
No?
Just stop it.
So that whole thing you think is complete fabrication. Today we're doing a Gus. Feel free to agree with him or disagree with him.
I
We
mean,
already know he's 97%.
I am normally very open-minded,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But in this specific case, this is just totally made up.
Okay.
Yeah.
A renowned American pioneer diver.
I think it happened.
Throughout his career,
Okay.
he's said to have done over 19,000 dives.
That's a lot of dives.
And even set the record for the deepest
Wow.
dive with air in a tank. Gilliam dove to a staggering 145 meters.
That's a lot.
Although usually
Definitely deep.
already at a depth of 50 meters, divers use Trimix with low oxygen saturation.
Trimix.
In short, Brett was a true professional, the cream of the crop, so no challenge was out of his range. In 1972, Brett, accompanied by Rod Temple and Robbie McIlvaine, within the framework of a research expedition, were diving in Kane Bay off the north coast of St. Croix Island.
Looks
The
Beautiful.
goal was to examine and take photos of a cliff's edge at a depth of 64 meters. After submerging, the divers immediately got to work. Suddenly, Temple turned around and saw 2 white-tipped sharks in the distance.
They're
One of them
reef
looked
sharks.
almost 4 meters long,
Yeah.
and the other one was even larger. Any of us would have probably started panicking
No,
and
we
returned
wouldn't.
to the surface.
What?
But these divers were in no way intimidated by the sharks.
Of course not.
For
Predators
those
often bit
my
the
keyboard. For those of you who don't know, a white tip is a reef shark.
Yeah.
So if there's any sharks that you're not afraid of, it's a reef shark.
Yeah.
Those guys eat like small little fish. They're little reef sharks. I mean, you see him in the Georgia Aquarium.
Yeah.
So, wow, he got attacked by a reef shark? Let's see.
again, the stream of nonsensical stories continues. But no, to be fair, they haven't said they got attacked. They just said
Well, they're setting it up as if
the ridiculous statement was anybody else would have panicked and gone to the surface.
from a
No.
reef shark.
No, that's not true. No diver would have panicked. They would have been like, "Oh my god, look, dude, guys, shark!" This is the sign for shark.
Especially with the cameras going.
Right. Stump.
their equipment or the steel cables on the research boat. The divers were typically accompanied by an armed diver, but not on that day. Yet the two sharks didn't seem to pay attention to them.
That's
Tiger
a
shark.
tiger
So
shark.
Brett even took a few photos of the predators. After finishing the task, Brett and Robbie sat down to catch a breath, waiting for Rod. But their colleague was late. Suddenly, the men saw air bubbles going up from the depths. This meant Rod might have had some malfunction with the additional oxygen. Since Brett had more air remaining, he signaled Robbie to go up and return to Rod to help him. After he descended, Brett saw a horrifying scene. The water was colored with his friend's blood. One of the sharks had bitten Rod on the thigh. The diver was frantically trying to push the 4-meter-long animal away, but it wouldn't leave him alone. Brett rushed to help, but the other shark appeared as if
Was it a
from nowhere,
megalodon?
sinking its sharp teeth into Rod's wounded leg. Rod was thrashing about, trying to pick at the shark's eyes and gills, and Brett curled his free hand into a fist and kicked the animals as far as he could see. Right in front of him, the sharks were tearing away the pieces of his friend's body, but suddenly, they let him go. Brett instantly started surfacing with Rod in tow, but the sharks came back. They didn't want to give away their prey. Rod had lost a lot of blood, and the predators were impossible to stop after they'd smelled it. Rod tried to push his friend away so that he would leave him and save himself, but Brett didn't give up until one of the sharks forcefully kicked him away from Rod. The diver could only watch his friend's lifeless body descend into the abyss,
That's
while the
terrible.
sharks were biting off pieces of it. Meanwhile, Brett was running out of air, so fighting the desire to just stay there and die, he pulled himself together and made every effort to get back to the surface. This story shows that not even professional divers are immune to crossing paths with the ocean predators.
Oh my
Yes,
god.
Brett survived, but the day
Immune?
when he failed to save his friend traumatized him for life.
Immune from
Bro.
crossing paths with the ocean's predators.
Yeah. it's
Not
ridiculous.
even the professionals are immune from that.
Not even the
They don't have
professionals?
shark repellent like
What?
built in. That it. Yeah, no, not even the pros are immune to having an interaction with the shark. They pray for it every day.
Right. You go
That's
out of
how
your way.
opposite it is of the statement he
Look,
said.
it's so much opposite that people pay extra to go dive with sharks.
I'd pay for.
Yeah.
Well, I'd pay for that.
How much is the diving? $80. But for $200, we can go shark diving. Take my money. Here we go. $200. Like,
Absolutely.
what are you talking about?
This is some funny stuff.
Hit it.
Looks like Ken Joyce.
Yet sometimes the dangerous predator in the ocean's depths may turn out to be neither a whale nor a shark, but instead, the person closest to you. On
Because
October
they're
22nd,
murderers?
2003, Tina Watson and her husband were spending their honeymoon in Australia. They
We
came
saw-
here
we
specifically
reacted
to
to this,
dive
I
to the
think,
shipwreck
didn't
of
we?
Yongola.
Yes.
This steamship
Remember?
accommodated over
see, hold on.
300 passengers.
I remember this.
She sank in 1911 near the Great Barrier Reef and now lies at a depth of
This
30
was a
meters.
crazy story.
The diving instructors gave the newlyweds a detailed account of what was going to happen during the dive and what route they would take. Gabe and Tina took their air tanks and, together with 4 other divers, started descending into the water. But in just a few minutes, Gabe returned to the surface and said he needed help. The instructors didn't understand what his problem was. But
Only
they
a few
suddenly
minutes.
saw that Tina was taking too long to surface. They left Gabe, and one of the organizers of the dive descended and found the woman unconscious. He got her to the boat and tried to resuscitate her, but after 45 minutes of trying, it became clear that Tina had died. So, what had happened under the water? Perhaps the girl was overpowered by the strong underwater currents in this area. But how come an experienced rescue diver failed to save her? Gabe told instructors
was
that the
dead.
water current was constantly making them drift away. So Tina showed him that she wanted to return to the anchor line.
I'm hesitant to say my comment. Should I pull it back in?
No, go ahead. What?
Well, maybe should I'm not gonna say.
No. Go ahead.
It's too
What?
bad. I don't want to. I like that today. All the bad comments are going to you. So
Okay, that's not.
I'm gonna hold it in. But
People know.
I was just thinking of a possible reason. That's all. But I'm gonna keep going.
All right.
Then he pointed to the hose of his inflatable tank and asked Tina
Pointed to
get
what?
some air into the buoyancy compensator so that they could surface.
What did he call
But
Tina?
nothing came out of the hose. So
What?
Gabe grabbed Tina by the belt and started going back to the anchor line, dragging her along. Suddenly, Tina accidentally pushed the mask off his face, and to readjust it, he let go of his wife. The current immediately carried Tina away, and she was beyond his reach. Did it all happen the way Gabe recounted it? When the police interrogated the man, they noticed that he kept mixing up his testimony, and his recount wasn't aligning with the data of the underwater computer. In addition, it was very suspicious that Gabe didn't take the weight belt off of Tina and didn't share his extra oxygen with her. It was also noteworthy that when Tina was raised to the surface, her regulator was still in her mouth, and there was air in her tank. So how
Why'd
could
she
she have
die?
suffocated? No
Murder.
faults were also found with her equipment. The diving instructors mentioned having seen Gabe grab Tina in a way that seemed to obstruct her movement. So the police believe this was the course of the events. Gabe turned off Tina's regulator and held her until she went unconscious and suffocated. Then he turned the air supply on again and returned to the surface. He told the instructors he was feeling unwell to distract them from Tina. The final clue in this case was the result of an autopsy. The cause of death turned out to be drowning. The man kept denying everything and said he would never do that to his beloved wife. Yet his actions proved otherwise. Hidden cameras installed on Tina's grave showed Gabe taking flowers and gifts off it and then throwing them into the trash. Do loving husbands do that? But what was his motive? Money. There's information that he took his wife's
Life
wedding ring
insurance,
from the funeral office and tried very hard to get an insurance policy of $130,000.
For 130
Yet
grand?
the court still acquitted him and ruled the case to be one of involuntary manslaughter. And this is far from being the only story which the husband likely made his wife's death out to be an accident during diving. On
Okay, hold on one second. Let's go back for a second here.
Okay.
If you found a body of a deceased diver and they had air in their tank and the regulator was in their mouth, to me, the story they're putting together kind of doesn't make sense. Okay? Because let's say we're underwater and I somehow hug you and have enough
I would
dexterity.
like that every once in a while.
Okay. I have enough dexterity to close your tank, your air tank. Okay? And just hold you down until you stop breathing. All right? Are you going to tell me that A, you're going to be so overpowered that you can't.
Like I'm just sitting there, like go ahead and murder me.
No. Oh,
No,
I'm
don't
dying.
murder me. Don't murder me.
Yeah, oh, no.
No.
Okay.
But we don't
Number
know.
one.
She may have struggled, so
Okay.
I don't get what you're saying there.
What
She
I'm
may
saying.
have fought back.
Yeah, okay. What I'm saying is they didn't find any physical, at least they didn't mention it. They didn't find any physical evidence of like a struggle because you would think that she had bruises or the guy had bruises or something.
Yeah.
So there's no evidence of a struggle. Number two, and number three, if you're not breathing, why would you keep the regulator in your mouth and dying? Because I feel like at some point you're like, okay, I don't have any air. I'm going to spit it out. I'm going to do something. And then once you die, how is he putting the regulator back in her mouth, opening the air, like doing all this stuff like it's no
So
big
you
deal?
think she just died of something else?
I mean, it had to happen, right? It had to be of something else. Because I can imagine you close my tank and I don't spit the regulator out. Like, that to me doesn't make sense. And I'm just clinching and then dying.
No,
What?
I'd be going for your regular.
Right, of course. But even if you can, because your hands are tied, you're also holding the regulator against my mouth. Like, how many arms do you have to do all this? Hold you down, close the tank, keep the regulator in your mouth. Don't do anything to mess up with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? I don't know. And I'm sure there's CSI experts in the comments right now.
You're going to get comments today.
They're typing in
Lot of
how
them.
easy it is to hold somebody down, close their tank, wait for them until they die, and how they will never spit the regulator out.
You're pretty confident of your story here as well.
I'm just trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know. I don't know. I really, on this one, I just don't know. I mean, why would she just have died? It's really rare that would happen.
Yeah, and the other thing is,
I mean, there's
if
no-
the guy really killed her by holding her down, because I think it would be easier from behind, right? You close the tank, and I keep my hand on the valve that you cannot open, and he just literally hold you from the back, and you can trash her out, you can do whatever you want. You're dead. There's no way you're gonna overpower me by reaching back there and stopping me from it. So, like, if I wanted to kill you on the water, it would be easy. I'm just saying, not gonna do it,
I'd rather not, but thank
right?
you.
But it would be easier from behind. Like,
But
literally.
if for some reason I'm gone now, we know he changes.
Am I in your policy? Okay. The point is,
but I would say that what didn't come out in this, if it just happened that she died,
Yeah.
whatever, then the evidence would be coming out like she had some medical history, and she had, she's had seizures before, like.
well, people have heart attacks out of the blue.
Yeah,
you don't
I
have to
know,
have
I
a
know,
history of
I
heart
know, but
attacks.
it just seems pretty.
I normally
Low
tend to
chances.
believe the most common explanation, which is this guy killed her. Now, if the policy was $130 million, I would have been like, okay, come on, dude, you did it. 130 grand. Well, although this happened a while ago. But the other thing is, why would you put the regulator back in the mouth if you really killed her? That doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, just to look like you didn't.
Like, because if they found the regulator out of her mouth, it will be like, oh, clearly he did.
Yeah, like he
what?
pulled it out. I mean, he's just trying to think of making it look like.
If you were
It
in a
was
jury, does the fact that the regulator was in her mouth changes your mind about this? No. The answer is no. It doesn't, like, it's irrelevant
I
to
mean,
me.
that one fact would not be enough to sway me one way or the other. I mean, I would have to piece it all together.
What if you were like, oh, and then
But
it's
I
like,
mean, but
the regulator was in her mouth. Now, how about that?
But
you
they-
wouldn't be like, oh, like,
Right.
no.
but they didn't obviously prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. That's
Right.
why he's got a not guilty verdict. So
I don't think this guy did it, personally, based on what they talked about in this thing.
I think I'm just looking forward to all the comments that
gonna
are
be
gonna
entertaining.
directed to you.
It's
and
going to be entertaining.
not me.
January 25th, 1998, the married couple of Tom and Eileen Lonergan set out on a group scuba diving adventure to the Coral Sea. They were diving on St.
Beautiful, the
Crispin's
Coral
Reef,
Sea
which is a
off
popular
Australia.
diving spot in the Great Barrier Reef.
Yep.
40
was there.
minutes after submerging, the couple surfaced and saw clear skies and blue water stretching into the horizon, and nothing else.
Where's the boat?
Horrified, they realized there was no one around. They'd been abandoned. Still, exactly how the events unfolded remains nothing but theories.
Oh, boy.
To this day, no one knows exactly what happened to them. 2 days had passed before anyone realized the Lonergans were missing. The ship crew found a bag with their belongings, wallets, and passports aboard.
that boat.
A large-scale search operation was organized. Air and sea rescue teams spent 3 days looking for the lost couple. But they
Dang.
found only bits and pieces of the Lonergans' diving gear that had washed up on the shore. One of them was a diving board, an accessory used for making notes under the
We
water.
have been abandoned.
The board read, "To anyone who can help us, we have been abandoned on Edgincourt Reef by MV Outer Edge on January 25th, 1998 at 3 p.m. Please help us. Come to rescue us before we die. Help."
Wow.
But the bodies of Tom and Eileen Lonergan were never found. Eventually, everyone assumed that the couple was dehydrated and disoriented.
Yeah.
So they must have either drowned or been eaten by sharks.
That could have
But
been.
there's one more rather strange theory. Eileen's diary contained disturbing entries. 2 weeks before the incident, she wrote that Tom had depression and wanted to die. The woman was worried that he might get her into trouble as well. Had the man planned it all for them to be abandoned? We'll never find out what happened that
How?
day. But it's
How?
far from being the most complicated story of death during diving.
Yeah, that doesn't make any
It's
sense either.
1990.
How do you plan to be abandoned? Just tell me. All right, we go on a boat. We go diving.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, we go diving on a. Pick the operator, any operator. All right,
The
that
captain abandoned us, so you end up going to jail when you
you're
get
gonna
back.
drop us off, and go. Just don't even come back. Just go. What?
That makes zero sense.
Jesus.
That we're in agree with.
8. A talented diver, Craig Cicola, was going to dive to Andrea Doria,
Oh, boy.
an Italian ocean liner, which in 1956 collided with a ship named Stockholm near Nantucket, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. There you go. I
As a
told you.
result, the sunken liner became a challenging diving spot, known for its depth of
243
74 meters,
feet. All right.
low
That was-
temperatures, strong currents, and valuable
That was accurate.
artifacts. Fine china remained intact on board,
Cool.
and some specimens that had been surfaced from the ocean floor are now kept in museums or sold for fortune. So, when Craig told his loved ones where he was going to dive,
That's Jonathan Bird.
his stepmother, Susan Cicola, who collected antique china, told him she'd be thrilled to have a plate from the shipwreck as a souvenir. Craig's father disapproved of his son's idea and said he would have preferred for him to dive at the reefs, but the young man thought this to be too boring, while Andrea Doria was anything but. The winter storms were creating additional pressure, which demolished the ship's walls and opened up new cracks for exploration. Each new dive was very different from the previous one. Finally, on June 23rd, Craig started his dive with another diver named Paul Whitaker. They descended along the ship's anchor line and swam to an opening in its hull. Everything was covered with seaweed on the inside, and nothing remained of the former glory of Doria. Still, Craig kept hoping to find at least something. He looked in every crack and left no stone unturned. Finally, after he descended to a popular spot named Gimbel's Hole and walked a little bit further, Craig saw where his coveted china might be. The man was incredibly happy and decided to dive for it again the following day. On June 24th, the two divers were joined by Lynn Del Corio, but Craig didn't wait for anyone and dived alone. He quickly descended to a depth of 55 meters to the capsized hull of Andrea Doria. Soon, he saw the white flashes of diving flashlights in Gimbel's Hole. It was Paul and Lynn, who had caught up with him. Paul gave Craig an okay gesture. Craig gestured back, saying all was fine with him too, but that didn't last for long. The 37 minutes that followed became a total nightmare for Craig. He left the foyer for the dining room, but that place was too difficult to pass through. Broken table legs were protruding from all sides like sharp spears. So, Craig, being a beginner, shouldn't have gone there under any circumstances. But he wasn't gonna play by the rules. There, the diver found 3 whole pieces of china. Craig carefully put them into a net bag attached to his belt. Then, Craig got out of the Doria, but he couldn't find the anchor line of the boat he had come on. So, he decided to go back to the surface on his own. He tied one end of a rope to the sunken ship, and to the other end, he attached a lifting bag. Then, he quickly sent the inflatable buoy up. The crew members saw the buoy appear on the surface and rushed to it immediately to meet Craig when he would show up. But the rope tied to the buoy was torn. Suddenly, Craig surfaced, but facing downward. When his friends turned him over, they saw that the diver's face was blue and covered with bruises, and his eyes were bloodshot. He wasn't responding to anything and didn't seem to be breathing. These were the classic symptoms of what's usually called decompression sickness.
Yeah.
When a diver submerges, the nitrogen they breathe liquidizes and travels from the lungs into the bloodstream and then into the tissues. When the diver surfaces, the liquid nitrogen moves back into the blood and then into the lungs, where it's exhaled as a gas. Yet, if the surfacing process is too fast, the nitrogen may turn into a gas bubble that blocks oxygen flow in the blood. Then, the diver can't release the nitrogen, and decompression sickness develops. And Craig went up from a depth of 61 meters in mere minutes, although it was supposed to take an hour. Suddenly, he started foaming at the mouth. The men that were on the boat began doing heart-lung resuscitation and simultaneously calling a helicopter that would take Craig to the hospital as fast as possible. Yet his life couldn't be saved. Paul and Lynn were looking at Craig's net bag, still containing the 3 china pieces from a dining plate, a serving plate, and a bowl. Only one question was on their minds. Was this worth his life?
Of course not.
Would you
Why was
dare
that
to
question
dive
in
and
their
get
mind?
inside of Andrea Doria?
Yes.
And what if I tell you that bread plates from a sunken ship like this can be sold for $350?
Who cares?
Write in the comments. Also, subscribe to my channel. There's a lot of other
All right. The first question is, would you dive it? Yes, I would love to. The second question is, do you know that the plates are worth $300? No, but it doesn't matter. because I wouldn't sell them if it's true that there's China there and you can take it as a souvenir. Which, by the way, in most places,
can't. I was
it's
surprised.
totally illegal.
Yeah, I was
you
surprised.
can't do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, like in places like Chuck Lagoon, for example.
zero touching.
Yeah.
You can't move it. Not only take it, you can't even touch it.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. So in most places, when you have wrecks that have artifacts inside, the government, in order to protect the wrecks, they make it illegal for you to take anything, even touch it in some cases. In some countries, they even forbid you from wearing gloves, so you're not touching stuff all over the place. So there's some regulations and stuff like that depending on where you are. Perhaps the Andrea Doria is one of those where you can just, if you find an artifact, you can take it. I don't know that. Leave a comment below if you know that. But would I love to dive it? Yes. And I actually think Ed has a crazy story from the Andrea Doria. Like, he got trapped and, one of those typical Ed stories, I barely survived type of thing.
I'd like to hear it.
Yeah,
I haven't heard that one.
This will be a cool one. One of the stories in here that I said I was 97% sure that it was BS was the guy Michael who got swallowed by the whale. And you were like, yeah, I think it happened. We actually reacted to this in the past, to this story. And we have like the guy doing interviews and stuff like that. And I'm going to leave it right here so you can check it out in case you haven't seen it. You know where I stand on this just by looking.
And I just want to close with one more chance for yourself.
All right.
Florida lobster
Oh, God.
don't have the claws that Maine lobster have. You said I'm 97% wrong. Are you going to raise that to 98% that I'm wrong? Or lower it that maybe I'm right. Or leave it at 97% that I'm wrong.
I'll go 97.5.
You heard it.